So let's see what I covered in the previous class. In previous class, I gave the introduction of metal forming process. What is metal forming? In metal forming, we apply load on a component, on a metallic component. By applying load, we change the shape of the component. We are not cutting the material. For changing the shape, we are not cutting the material, just we are applying the load. And because of the load, the material is undergoing plastic deformation and its shape is changing. So that is metal forming process. Further, in metal forming process, we studied something called as recrystallization temperature, and then we studied something called as flow stress. Okay. Based on recrystallization temperature, the metal forming was classified as hot working, cold working and warm working. If the metal forming process is carried out above recrystallization temperature, it is called as hot working. Below recrystallization temperature, it is called as cold working, and at recrystallization temperature, it is called as warm working. Then we have flow stress, and after that I started with rolling operation. So just in case if you have not studied these topics, you can go through the previous class lectures. Okay, for today's class, this definitions will not be needed. You can understand these topics without even understanding this. Okay, so just in case if you want to study this, go through the previous lectures. So, sir, after strain hardening, how will yield strength increase? Because there is no dislocation present and material nearly becomes brittle and break. We are eliminating the dislocations. Dislocations will be present, but what will happen is multiple dislocations will get collected at one point. Multiple dislocations will get collected at one point. That is called as entangling of dislocations. The dislocations get entangled with each other. So this prevents the further movement of the atoms or molecules. This prevents further movement of the molecules. So what is happening in plastic deformation? The molecules or the atoms are moving. So when the dislocations, multiple dislocations got entangled, it was difficult for us to move the atoms. Okay. Therefore, we'll have to apply larger load. Since you are applying larger load, we say that the yield strength has increased. Since you are applying larger load to increase, to cause the plastic deformation, we say the yield strength has increased. Okay. Then his doubt is, material nearly becomes brittle. That is, it won't exactly become very brittle. And you are contradicting your own statement. See, if a ductile material is becoming brittle, it means its hardness and its strength is increasing, right? So how is that increasing? It is increasing because of strain hardening. And it won't become very brittle, it will become hard. And it will be difficult for us to change the shape. Therefore, we'll be applying recrystallization on that. Brittle does not have yield strength. It directly has ultimate. Danish, overall we are saying is strength is increasing. Okay, we are not concerned about it is brittle or ductile. It is not necessary that it will become brittle only. It may be ductile with increased hardness. It is not always necessary that because of strain hardening the material will become brittle. It may become brittle. Okay, and the other point is we cannot perform further shape change in that. Therefore, we will be performing recrystallization on that. It means you have gone through previous lecture. Okay, no problem. For today's lecture, it won't be needed. You can go through it later. Okay. So guys, we had started with rolling operation. What happens in rolling is we are having two rollers. Both the rollers are rotating in opposite direction. And through the rollers, a component is passed. When the component is passed through the rollers, the thickness of the component reduces. See, initially the thickness was H0 and finally the thickness is H1. Okay. And these are the two rollers. So which portions we had seen in previous class are, what is delta H? Delta H is change in thickness. Delta H is change in thickness. It is H0 minus H1. It is called as maximum possible draft. Okay. Previous class I have not mentioned that delta H is called as maximum possible draft. So please add this to your notes. Delta H is called as maximum possible draft. Then we had seen cos alpha is equal to R minus delta H by 2 upon R. Cos alpha is equal to R minus delta H by 2 upon R. R here is the radius of the rollers. And this expression we are going to use to find the value of alpha. This expression we are going to use to find the value of alpha. So alpha will be cos inverse of r minus delta h by 2 upon r. We have taken few questions on this. Then L here tells us the length of deformation zone. What do you understand by length of deformation zone? Sorry, what do you understand by deformation zone? You can see that in this portion the initial thickness is h0. In this portion the thickness is h1. So whatever deformation is taking place, it is taking place in this zone, right? So this zone is called as deformation zone, and the length of deformation zone is given by root over of r delta h. Okay, and then we found out tan alpha. Tan alpha is root over of delta h by r. Okay, so let's proceed with today's class now. So from this portion I am starting the today's portion. Please focus here. Okay guys, so let's see the velocities. Here v0 is the initial velocity of the component, right? The component initially is entering with the velocity v0. It is exiting with the velocity v1. So v0 is the entry velocity, v1 is the exit velocity. And then here we have v. What was v? v was the surface velocity of the rollers. v was the surface velocity of the rollers. And then we had seen the relationship that v0 is less than v is less than v1. So this is the relation between all the three velocities, right? Exit velocity is the highest velocity. Then we have the roller surface velocity, and then we have the entry velocity. So someone please tell me, what is the velocity of component at this point? What is the velocity of component at this point? The blue line that I have drawn, what is the velocity of component there? No Danish, it won't be 0. Component is entering with v0. This is the entry point. You can say this is the entry point, and at entry the velocity is v0, right? At entry the velocity is v0. So at this point the velocity will be v0. This is the exit point. This point is the exit point, and exit velocity is v1. So you can say that in the deformation zone, the component's velocity is increasing from v0 to v1. The component's velocity is increasing from v0 to v1. But v lies in between v0 and v1. v lies in between v0 and v1. It means at some point, the component's velocity will become equal to v. At some point, the component's velocity will become equal to v. Right? Any doubt in this? At some point, the component's velocity will become equal to v. Any doubt about this? Okay. So I am proceeding now. So at this point, I am saying the component's velocity will be equal to v. Okay. Now, what will be the relative velocity between component and the roller? At this point, the component's velocity is v, and throughout the surface, the roller's velocity is also v, right? So here, the relative velocity will become equal to 0. The relative velocity between the component and the roller will become equal to 0, and that point is called as the neutral point or no slip point. Okay, so this arrow I am marking as the neutral point. I'll use the black pen. At neutral point, what is happening is component velocity. If there is no space in your diagram, you can write it separately. At neutral point, the component velocity becomes equal to roller velocity, which is equal to v. Therefore, the relative velocity will be 0. Therefore, the neutral point is also called as no slip point. Okay. So, from here you can see that the neutral point is dividing the deformation zone into two parts. One is this portion and the other is this one, right? The neutral point is dividing the deformation zone into two parts. So this portion, that is the portion between the entry point, the portion between the entry point and the neutral point is called as the lagging zone. It is called as the lagging zone. And here, the portion between the exit and the neutral point is called as the leading zone. Okay. So please write down. The neutral point divides the deformation zone into two parts. The neutral point divides the deformation zone into two parts. The part between entry and neutral point is called as lagging zone. The part between entry and neutral point is called as lagging zone, and the part between exit and neutral point is called as leading zone. The part between exit and neutral point is called as leading zone. Now, let's focus on the lagging zone. Okay. Let's suppose we are taking this point. This plane we are taking. At this plane, the velocity of the component is V0. And the velocity of the roller is V. Right? It means some relative velocity exists between the component and the roller. Right? Similarly, take any random point. Let's say this plane I am taking. Here also, we have some velocity of the component. This velocity will lie between V0 and V. What I have done is, I have taken a plane, and on this plane the velocity will lie between V0 and V. But what is the velocity of the roller? The velocity of the roller is V. Again, there will be some relative velocity between the component and the roller, right? Whenever we have relative velocity, what will be happening? Slipping will take place. Guys, whenever there is relative velocity, slipping will take place. Very good, Trisha. Okay. So, throughout the lagging zone, slipping will be taking place. Let us take the leading zone. At this point, at the outermost point of the leading zone, the velocity of the component is V1. And the velocity of the roller is V. So again, there is some relative velocity between the component and the roller. So there will be some slip. Again, if I take any plane, let us say this plane I am taking. In this plane, the velocity of the component will be between V and V1. It won't be equal to V. The velocity of the component will be between V and V1, and the velocity of the roller will be V. So again, there will be some relative velocity, and whenever there is relative velocity present, slip will be taking place. So further write down, at all points in the deformation zone, except for the neutral point, some relative velocity will be present. Between the rollers and the component. Therefore, slipping will be taking place. Okay. So this point, the point where the component is entering the rollers, I am calling that as entry point. And the point from which the the component is leaving the rollers, the point from which the component is leaving the rollers, that I am calling as exit point. This I am calling as exit point. Okay. So please tell me, in the lagging zone, maximum slip will be present at which place? In lagging zone, maximum slip will be present at which point? Initial point, start point. Very good, guys. At the entry point. At the entry point we'll have maximum slip, because the difference in velocity is highest at the entry point. Right? The difference in velocity is highest at the entry point. Therefore, in lagging zone, maximum slip will be present at entry point. And it is called as backward slip. And the backward slip is given by V minus V naught upon V into 100. V minus V naught upon V into 100. This is backward slip. Please copy this. Similarly, in the leading zone, the maximum slip will be present at the exit point. In the leading zone, the maximum slip will be present at the exit point. Exit point is marked at this point. Okay. In leading zone. Okay. Here it was called as backward slip. So in this, it will be called as forward slip. Why is it called as backward slip? Exactly, I even don't know, Arjun, why it is called as sorry, Abhimanyu is asking. Abhimanyu is asking why it is called as backward slip. I don't know why it is called a backward slip. Okay, Abhimanyu. Then we have forward slip. Forward slip is equal to, it is a good question. I'll check it and tell tomorrow. If I get any logic behind it, any logic behind the naming, I'll tell you in the next class. Okay? So it is, so one way of memorizing this is, in both the cases in the denominator we are having the roller velocity. In the denominator we are having the roller velocity, and in the numerator we are having the positive point. In the numerator we have the positive thing. So for getting positive, we always subtract the smaller value from the bigger value. So V naught is smaller than V, that's why V minus V naught. Numerator is positive, and in denominator we have the roller velocity. Here the exit velocity is bigger than the roller velocity, therefore V1 minus V, and in denominator again we are having the roller velocity into 100. Okay, so this is the forward slip. Probably the component is having less velocity, so backward slip. Now, from whatever we have seen till now, one thing we have understood is that throughout the deformation zone, slipping is taking place except for one plane. Which plane? The neutral plane. In the neutral plane, no slip is taking place. So what kind of motion is there taking place at the neutral point? At the neutral point, no slip is taking place. It means at the neutral point, pure rolling is taking place. Right? At the neutral point, pure rolling is taking place. So, please tell me the answer. See, let's take this marker. This marker is behaving as a roller. It is rolling over my hand. So, when the marker is just rolling, when the marker is moving in a pure rolling motion, there will be more contact area between the marker and my hand. Or when slip is present, there will be more contact area between the marker and my hand. Please tell me, when the marker is rolling, there will be more contact area, or when the marker is slipping, there will be more contact area. In which case we'll get more contact area? Out of rolling and slipping, in which case we'll get more contact area between the components? In case of slipping. Okay, so everyone is saying slipping. Very good, guys. In case of slipping, we'll get higher contact area between the roller and the component. In case of slipping, we'll get higher contact area between the roller and the component. It means the minimum area will be at the neutral point. Pure rolling takes place. Hence, minimum contact area is present between the roller and the component. For the same force, when the area is minimum, what will happen to the pressure? Obviously, the pressure will become maximum, and hence, throughout the rolling operation, maximum pressure will be acting at the neutral point. Okay. Then Abhimanyu is asking, won't it have line contact in both cases? Abhimanyu, line contact will be present in case of pure rolling. Okay. When it is slipping, the line will get converted into some area. So there will be a area contact. When there is pure rolling, there will be a line contact, and when slipping is there, the line will get converted into the area. Therefore, higher contact area will be there in case of slipping, and in case of pure rolling, there will be lesser contact area. So, at neutral point, pure rolling takes place, hence minimum contact area is present between the roller and the component. Maximum pressure is acting in the neutral plane. So, if we say pressure, if we see the relation between pressure and slip, the pressure is inversely proportional to slip. You can see at neutral point, the slip was not present. There was zero slip, but the pressure was maximum. And at other points, since slip is present, the pressure won't be maximum. It will be some other value. Okay? Abhimanyu, I didn't give anything complicated. What I told is, in case of pure rolling, there will be a line contact. Okay? But in case of slipping, the line will get converted into an area. It is a thing of imagination. I can't make you imagine that. Okay? Now, let us see when the component is just entering the rollers. What is happening? What I told you is, we are not giving any external push or pull to the component. The component is getting pulled inside the rollers just because of the friction between the rollers. So let us say this is the initial position of the component. Okay. So at this point there is a point contact, and whenever there is a contact between two bodies, a force is acting. Which force? The normal force. A normal force is acting, right? This angle is equal to what? Alpha. This angle was equal to alpha. So this angle will also become equal to alpha, right? And perpendicular to normal force, which force acts? The friction force acts. So here we have a friction force. Okay. So let us mark all the angles. If this angle is alpha, this will become 90 minus alpha. Right? Similarly, this one will also become 90 minus alpha. And this angle will become equal to 90 minus alpha. That is alpha. So let us see what are the forces that are acting in this direction. So, first force is the friction force. How much friction force is acting in this direction? F cos alpha. And similarly, in this direction, how much is acting? N cos of 90 minus alpha. So it can be written as minus n cos of 90 minus alpha. Okay. So this is total horizontal force acting in the direction of F cos alpha minus n cos of 90 minus alpha. It is a total horizontal force acting in the direction of motion of the component. Now, for the component to get pulled in, this I am writing as, let's say, Rx. Let's take this value as Rx. and Rx is equal to this. For the component to get pulled in, the value of Rx must be greater than 0. Rx must be greater than 0. Let us see what is the value of Rx. F cos alpha minus n cos of 90 minus alpha can be written as n sin alpha. This entire thing must be greater than 0. So, F cos alpha must be greater than n sin alpha. Here F is the friction force, N is the normal force. F is the friction force, N is the normal force. F is the friction force, N is the normal force. So in terms of coefficient of friction, F can be written as mu n. So mu n cos of alpha must be greater than n sin alpha. N and will get cancelled. What we will get here is mu must be greater than tan alpha. Mu must be greater than tan alpha for the component to get pulled. Understood? Please copy till here. If you have copied, please reply done. So what we have established here is for the entry of the component, mu must be greater than tan of alpha. Here mu is coefficient of friction. Mu is coefficient of friction between and component. Okay. Let's say beta is equal to friction angle. Beta is equal to friction angle. Okay. Beta is equal to friction angle. Then tan of beta will be equal to mu. That tan of beta will be equal to mu. Okay. Tan of beta will be equal to mu. So this is the expression. Okay. Mu is written as tan of beta, where beta is friction angle. How it is coming, why it is coming, that all is not needed. If it is needed, you can go through any mechanics book. Okay. So here we are saying tan beta is equal to mu. Here we are saying mu must be greater than or equal to alpha. It means tan of beta must be greater than or equal to, greater than tan of alpha. Tan of beta must be greater than tan of alpha. Right? That beta is equal to friction angle, that beta is equal to mu. Therefore, tan of beta must be greater than tan of alpha. For maximum possible reduction, how should be the value of alpha? For maximum possible reduction in thickness, the alpha should be maximum or minimum? Please tell me. For maximum possible reduction in thickness, the alpha should be maximum or minimum? Let's see, it should be minimum or maximum. Cos of alpha was equal to R minus delta H by 2 whole thing upon R, right? So R cos alpha is equal to R minus delta H by 2. So delta H by 2 is equal to R minus R cos alpha. Delta H by 2 is equal to R minus R cos alpha. Delta H is equal to 2 times R, that is diameter, again 2 times R cos alpha. So it is D times of 1 minus cos alpha. D times of 1 minus cos alpha. Delta H is the reduction. Right? So when the value of alpha is increasing, cos alpha value will, what will happen to cos alpha? When the value of alpha increases, what happens to cos alpha? It decreases, right? It decreases. So when the alpha is increasing, cos alpha will decrease, and when cos alpha is decreasing, that is the component that is to be subtracted, it is decreasing. Therefore, the value of delta H will increase. Right? So as alpha increases, cos alpha decreases. which implies delta H increases. Forward that one, no problem. Okay. Hence, for maximum possible reduction in thickness, the alpha should be maximum. Alpha should be maximum. Alpha should be maximum. Hence, and for maximum value of alpha, it is approximated to be equal to beta, right? For maximum value of alpha, it is approximated to be equal to beta. So, the maximum value of alpha becomes beta. Alpha should be maximum. Hence, it is taken equal to beta. Hence, it is taken equal to beta. Okay. Then what happens is, I'll write in this portion, for maximum possible reduction, alpha is taken equal to beta, that is, tan of alpha becomes equal to tan of beta, that is, tan of alpha becomes equal to mu, tan of alpha becomes equal to mu, and what is the value of tan of alpha? Tan of alpha was root over of delta H by R. Tan of alpha was root over of delta H by R. In previous class we have seen the derivation. Okay, root over of delta H by R is mu. And since we are talking about maximum possible reduction, so this delta H I am writing as delta H max. Delta H max. So root over of delta H max upon R is equal to mu. So what is the value of delta H? What is the value of delta H max? It is equal to mu square R. Very important expression, asked many times. But component will not move. According to that expression, the component should not move. But here we are approximating it to be equal to beta. Okay. So there will be motion. Okay. We are not making it exactly equal to beta, we are approximating it. If alpha is slightly smaller than beta, it will move slow. Very, very slow. Anyhow, even if alpha is equal to beta, what is happening is, there are multiple rollers. Guys, what happens is, there are multiple rollers and the component is kept on these rollers and it is moved forward. It is moved forward like this. And here will come the bigger rollers. So component is having some velocity, and the rollers are also having some velocity. So even if alpha becomes equal to beta, the component will get pulled. We won't have any problem. The problem will be present only when, because of the friction, there is some horizontal component in opposite direction. Anyhow, that is not needed. What we are saying here is, for maximum possible reduction, we are taking alpha approximately equal to beta. Hence, tan alpha will become equal to beta. Tan alpha is root over delta H by R. So maximum delta H maximum is equal to mu square R. Okay. This is maximum reduction per pass. What do you understand by the term per pass? If alpha is equal to 0, force pulling in is 0, so it can move at constant velocity. Yeah, perfect research. That is a perfect explanation. There is no, even if the force becomes equal to 0, external force is becoming equal to 0, but still the component will be pushed forward. Okay, it won't be like the component is stopped. So what is per pass? What do you understand by per pass? Per pass means when the component is moving once through the rollers. There is the maximum possible reduction in thickness. Okay. So for multiple reductions, you will have to pass the component through the rollers multiple times. For multiple reductions, you will have to pass a component through the rollers multiple times. H0 minus H1 be the reduction in thickness that is needed. Be the maximum reduction per pass. Wait, let us not take maximum reduction. Let reduction per pass is equal to delta H. Then number of passes, that is the number of times the component will have to be passed through rollers. The number of times the component will have to be passed through rollers will become equal to H0 minus H1 upon delta H. Right? Then the number of passes will be equal to H0 minus H1 into delta H upon delta H, sorry. Then sometimes this question has been slightly it has been asked by changing the wordings. This question has been asked by changing the wordings. What wording they have used is for minimum number of passes. For minimum number of passes, what should be the value of delta H? For minimum number of passes, what should be the value of delta H? So simply you can see here number of passes equal to H0 minus H1 upon delta H. Right? This is the reduction in thickness that is required. So this will remain constant. For the passes to become minimum, this will have to become maximum. This will have to become maximum. It means they are talking about delta H max. So it becomes equal to H0 minus H1 upon delta H max. Therefore, for minimum number of passes, the number of passes is equal to, for minimum number of passes, the number is equal to H0 minus H1 upon delta H max. Okay, understood? So, on the secondary screen, you can have a look on the question. The question is maximum possible draft, that is delta H. They are talking about the maximum possible draft in cold rolling of straight metal of sheet increases with. The maximum possible draft in cold rolling of sheet increases with. There are four options. That what is maximum possible draft? It is delta H. In the starting of the class, I told you H0 minus H1, that is delta H, is the maximum possible draft. Yes, option A is the right answer. Delta H is increasing with the increase of coefficient of friction. It is increasing with the increase of coefficient of friction. Therefore, option A, increase in coefficient of friction, is the right answer. Okay. Then GATE 2014. The question was, in a rolling process, the maximum possible draft defined as the difference between initial and final thickness of the metal sheet mainly depends on which pair of following parameters. P is strain, Q is strength of the material, R is roll diameter, S is roll velocity, and T is coefficient of friction between roll and the work. Again, they are asking the delta H depends on what? What is the answer for this? Delta H is dependent on mu and R. So, R, radius means diameter also. So, R, the roll diameter, is the right statement, and T, the coefficient of friction between roll and work, is the right statement. Therefore, R and T, option B is the right answer. Okay. Then, there is a GATE 2015 numerical. In a rolling operation using rolls of diameter 500 mm, if a 25 mm thick plate cannot be reduced to less than 20 mm in one pass, the coefficient of friction between the roll and the plate is. Okay, please tell me the answer for this. 0.14. Very good, guys. 0.14 is the right answer. So here they are saying that plate cannot be reduced to less than 20 mm. H0 minus H1 is equal to delta H. For delta H to be maximum, H1 has to be minimum, right? So simply delta H maximum becomes equal to 25 minus 20 is equal to delta H max. It is equal to 5 mm. It is equal to mu square R. Delta H max is equal to mu square R. So they are asking mu is equal to root over of 5 upon r. R is 250. So it is 0.1414. Same thing is written here also. Then we have get 2006 question on the screen. A 4 mm thick sheet is rolled with 300 mm diameter rolls to reduce the thickness without any change in its width. The friction coefficient at the work roll interface is 0.1. The minimum possible thickness of the sheet that can be produced in a single pass is. What is the minimum possible thickness that can be produced in a single pass? Again, they are asking about H1 minimum. H1 minimum will be equal to H0 minus delta H max. So you have to find delta H max. H0 is already given. Okay. So they are asking H1 minimum. So H0 minus delta H maximum is equal to H1 minimum. H0 is 4 minus delta H maximum, it is mu square R. So it is 0.1 square into the radius. Radius is 300 by 2. So it is 150. Okay. That is 4 minus 0.15. So it will give 2.5 mm. It will give you the answer as 2.5 mm. Okay. Try this question. Get 2011 question. The thickness of a plate is reduced from 30 mm to 10 mm by successive cold rolling passes using identical rolls of diameter 600 mm. Assume that there is no change in the width. If the coefficient of friction between rolls and the workpiece is 0.1, the minimum number of passes required is. For minimum number of passes. If you want to find the minimum number of passes, it means the reduction in each pass should be maximum. So it becomes delta H upon delta H max. Delta H is 30 minus 10 upon delta H max. Delta H max will be mu square R. Mu is given as 0.1 square into the radius of the rollers. 300. Okay. So it is 20 upon 3. It is 6.63. That is, the number of passes will be greater than 6. Even after the 6th pass, you have to pass the component through the rollers. So it will be equal to 7. Danish, we are not approximating it. You can't say approximating it. Approximating means if it is 6.4, you are taking it as 6. If it is above 6.5, you are taking it as 7. It will not be approximating. What I am saying is, it is greater than 6, right? So even after the 6th pass, you have to go for the next pass. So therefore, the total number of passes you have to take is 7. Okay.